talk about the beautiful business of milk today. Yeah, yeah. I got milk. Let's talk about milk. Oh yeah, baby, let's talk about the beautiful business of milk today.
This episode of Got Milk is sponsored by Shunya Agritech, the folks revolutionizing cattle nutrition with hydroponic green fodder. Visit their website at shunya.live for more details or download the Shunya app from Play Store or App Store.
Imagine wanting a latte or some ice cream and finding out milk's like a luxury.
Yeah.
Like we take it for granted, that steady supply. But turns out it's really complex.
It is.
And today we're looking into this paper called Constraints Faced by Dairy Farmers in Different States of India. An overview
Got it.
to like really get into what these farmers are dealing with and what that means for the, the future of milk in India, really.
Yeah, globally, I mean, India leads the world in milk production. So
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that.
it's a fascinating system they have going.
And one of the things this paper highlights is what they call the milk flows upwards paradox.
Interesting.
So it points out, like, milk production's mainly happening in rural areas, but the demand's all in cities.
Right. So that's a big logistical challenge.
Yeah.
You got to think about the whole chain from the farm to the consumer in a busy city.
Right. And milk's not,
It's perishable.
Yeah. You can't just...
The paper actually says milk is perhaps the only liquid that flows upwards.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
That quote stuck with me.
Me too. It's such a good...
Yeah.
like description of the situation.
Yeah.
So how did India tackle this?
Well, back in the 70s, they had this program, Operation Flood.
Oh.
It was really groundbreaking. They connected small farmers to open markets through cooperatives.
Wow.
Boosted production, and it helped lift a lot of farmers out of poverty.
That's amazing.
It's a huge success story.
So if Operation Flood was so successful, why are we even talking about constraints today?
It was a major turning point, but the research highlights that there are still challenges.
Makes sense.
And what's interesting is that the challenges vary by region in India.
Okay, so what kind of regional differences are we looking at here?
Well, instead of going region by region, I think it's more interesting to look at it thematically, right? Like one big one that affects a lot of the regions is knowledge and access to modern practices.
Oh, interesting. So even though Operation Flood connected farmers to markets, there's still a gap in knowledge and technology.
For example, Madhya Pradesh in central India, it's a top milk producer. But the research shows that many farmers still rely on traditional methods.
Really?
Yeah, they haven't fully adopted, scientific animal management or balanced feeding.
That seems kind of counterintuitive.
Yeah.
They're already a top producer. You'd think they'd be ahead of the curve.
You'd think so, but it shows that, having access to markets doesn't mean you have access to knowledge and technology.
Right. So is this knowledge gap common across other regions too?
It really is.
Wow.
Yeah. The research shows that in northern states like Punjab and Haryana, major milk producers as well, farmers don't always have training on disease prevention.
Oh.
Or stuff like artificial insemination, modern breeding techniques.
So even in regions that are really good at producing milk, there's still
a need for those.
Yeah, that underlying need.
Yeah, better practices.
For better knowledge and practices. Okay.
And it's not just about producing more milk. It's also about, animal welfare and sustainability long term.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So we've got this knowledge gap. Are there any other common threads in the research?
Absolutely. Another major constraint is infrastructure, which affects pretty much every part of dairy farming.
Okay, so let's dive into that. What kind of infrastructure are we talking about, and how's it affecting the farmers?
You got to think about milk going from the farm to your table.
Yeah.
That requires storage, transportation, vet services.
Right.
But in many parts of India, that infrastructure is just not there.
Oh, wow.
Which creates bottlenecks, increases costs for farmers.
I can see how that'd be a huge hurdle to overcome.
A specific example, In Western states like Gujarat and Maharashtra, they're known for indigenous cattle breeds. But the research highlights issues like poor irrigation, which impacts their fodder,
Right.
and then there's untimely vet services.
Oh, okay.
So, delays in treatment.
So even something as basic as irrigation can have like a
Oh,
ripple
yeah,
effect
Huge ripple effect.
on the whole operation.
Yeah. And it's not just physical infrastructure either. There's also a lack of digital infrastructure in a lot of areas.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Limiting access to information, market data.
Oh, wow.
So these farmers are even more isolated.
So it's like a whole web of
Yeah.
connected challenges.
Yeah. And these infrastructural limitations, along with the knowledge gap,
Yeah.
really create a huge barrier.
Right. Anything else in the infrastructure department before we...
Oh, yeah. One big one's processing facilities.
Oh, okay.
Even if you produce high-quality milk,
Right.
getting it processed and packaged for consumers is a huge challenge.
Oh, wow. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, so that impacts the farmer's income,
Yeah.
and it contributes to milk spoilage,
Right.
which is a huge problem, especially in a country with limited cold chain logistics.
Right. Okay, so we've got this knowledge gap.
Yeah.
We've got the infrastructure issues, but I'm guessing there's more to the story.
Well, you hit the nail on the head.
Okay.
Finances,
Right.
that's a big one.
Okay.
Finances can really make or break a dairy farm,
Yeah.
and the research makes that very clear. It's like the underlying current,
Right.
that can really affect things.
Yeah. Okay, so let's get into those financial constraints. What's the research
Yeah.
highlight?
One of the biggest things is the cost of inputs,
Okay.
like feed, medicine, even just buying and maintaining the animals.
Right.
It's all gone up
Yeah.
significantly. And, like
Yeah.
we talked about, poor infrastructure just makes those costs even worse.
Right, so it's like they're getting squeezed
Exactly.
from both sides,
Yeah.
higher costs, and then what, they're not getting paid enough for the milk.
That's a big part of it, yeah. A lot of farmers, complain about the low milk prices.
Right.
It makes it really hard to make a decent profit.
Yeah, that's like a global thing, isn't it?
It is.
Farmers always get hit with the high input costs, but they don't have control over what they get paid.
It's a tough situation.
Yeah. I imagine access to credit's a big issue too, right?
Huge.
Yeah.
Especially for small-scale farmers.
Yeah.
They don't have the collateral, the credit history
Right.
to get loans from banks.
Right.
So they end up going to, informal lenders
Okay.
who charge them crazy interest rates.
So there's stuck, right?
Mhm.
They need money to invest,
Totally.
but they can't get affordable credit.
Mm-hmm.
And then they can't make more money because the milk prices are low and their costs are high.
It's a vicious cycle.
Yeah.
Definitely contributes to the overall challenge.
Right. This financial piece really brings it all together,
Yeah.
We've got that knowledge gap, the infrastructure problems, now the money problems.
Yeah.
It sounds
It's complex.
Overwhelming, to be honest.
It is, but there are potential solutions.
Okay.
And the good news is that a lot of these solutions can address multiple problems at the same time.
okay, so that's good.
Yeah.
So where do we even begin to tackle these things?
I think a good place to start is that knowledge gap we talked about.
Okay.
Give farmers training and information
Right?
on modern dairy practices, animal health, financial management, that kind of stuff.
So just more education?
It seems simple,
Yeah.
but it has to be targeted, tailored to the region,
Right.
accessible. Think mobile apps with local content,
Okay.
workshops in the local language,
Okay.
even mentorship programs where
Yeah.
experienced farmers can help out.
So it's about meeting the farmers where they are.
Exactly.
Not just physically, but
Literally and figuratively.
Yeah.
Yeah. And technology can play a big role here, you
Right.
know?
yeah.
Think about using mobile tech for remote vet services or online platforms to connect farmers with buyers, get market information.
Right. So it's bringing the
Yeah.
knowledge to them directly.
Exactly.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
What about the infrastructure stuff? That seems a lot harder to
It's definitely a challenge,
yeah.
but it's not impossible.
Okay.
We need investment in rural infrastructure.
Right.
Better roads, reliable electricity, better storage, transportation networks, that kind of thing.
That sounds expensive.
It is.
Yeah.
But it's worth it. It would
Okay.
not just help the dairy farmers, but the whole rural economy
So it's like an investment in the
in the future.
whole future.
Not just a cost. Yeah.
Exactly. And we can't forget about government policies.
Right.
Targeted subsidies, tax breaks, loan programs.
Right.
Those can all encourage farmers to adopt modern practices,
Yeah.
invest in tech.
So it's kind of like a combination.
Right.
You've got empowering them through knowledge
Right.
and technology.
But then also these larger,
big picture stuff.
yeah, investments and policies.
Exactly.
Okay. And then what about the financial constraints? How do we like break that cycle of debt?
One important step is strengthening farmer cooperatives.
Okay.
You know, they can pool resources, get better credit rates,
Right.
negotiate prices for their milk, even invest in shared processing facilities.
So it's about like collective action.
Yeah, farmers helping each other out.
Yeah.
It's like a safety net.
I love that.
Yeah, they can share knowledge, best practices.
It's not just them struggling on their own.
Yeah,
It's a community.
a community.
Yeah. Are there any other solutions that might be good for those financial challenges?
Microfinance is a promising area.
Okay.
You know, those small loans,
Right.
especially for women,
Right.
can really empower them to invest in their farms, improve their livestock.
It's a good point. We don't talk enough about like women in agriculture,
Yeah.
but they're so important.
Huge impact.
Yeah, it's about like financial inclusion too, right?
Absolutely.
So they have the same opportunities as everyone else.
And a lot of these microfinance initiatives include like financial literacy training.
Oh, okay.
So it's not just giving them money,
All right.
it's teaching them how to use it.
Yeah, to manage it, to like
Budget, make decisions,
make good choices.
build a future for their farms.
Right. It's not just about the money. It's about like the knowledge and
It's
the
just tools, the resources
Yeah.
to really make it work.
so they can be independent
Exactly.
and take care of themselves.
Yeah, it's about empowerment.
It's amazing, you know, how even just a glass of milk is connected to all this.
Yeah,
And I've really thought about it like all the stuff that goes into it,
right.
the challenges these farmers face, you know, until we started looking into this research.
Yeah, it's easy to forget when you're just at the grocery store.
Right. To look,
But it is, you know, it's a complex system,
Yeah.
and the research shows that, like, really clearly.
it does. And these farmers, they're incredibly resilient, you know, like facing all these challenges, but they still provide milk for so many people.
They're feeding a nation.
Yeah, it makes you really appreciate it.
Yeah.
So what does all this mean for, you know, the future of dairy in India?
That's the big question.
Yeah.
The research doesn't have all the answers, but it does give us some good insight
Okay.
to think about policies and innovations.
So as consumers, like what can we take away from this? What can we do to support these farmers and like encourage
Yeah.
better practices?
I think the first step is just being aware. You know, understanding the challenges
Yeah.
helps us make better choices.
So like maybe looking for brands that support fair trade or the cooperatives.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And being willing to, you know, pay a fair price for the milk.
Right, because it reflects the like
The true cost.
yeah, the true cost and the farmer's hard work.
Exactly.
And I guess beyond that, we can also like advocate for better policies, right?
Absolutely.
Support small farms.
Yeah. Sustainable agriculture.
Investing in rural infrastructure.
Those systemic changes are so important.
Yeah, so it's not just on the consumer, it's
Whole.
a system thing.
Yeah. A multifaceted approach.
Well, this has been a really insightful deep dive.
Yeah.
I feel like I've learned a lot about like how milk gets to my table and
Yeah, it's complex.
yeah,
More than meets the eye.
yeah, for sure.
It's been great exploring this with you.
Yeah, thanks for coming on.
Of course.
And thanks everyone for listening to this deep dive.
Yeah, we hope you learned something.
What surprised you most about dairy farming in India?
Yeah, what solutions do you think would work best?
Let us know your thoughts.
Yeah, we'd love to hear from you.
Thanks for diving in with us.
I got milk.